It is a deal that has elicited a lot of debate with the public concerned about their data. The government assuring that all is safe and that the deal is good for the country. It has been termed as a game changer that will significantly strengthen Kenya's health financing architecture and service delivery systems. The 5-year billion-dollar health deal signed in Washington, D.C. is currently before the corridors of justice. What's in the deal? And are the people's concerns genuine? We speak to the man that led the Kenyan delegation throughout the negotiation process, the Principal Secretary for Medical Services, Dr. Amwai Oluga.
All right, now we are here with PS Oluga to take a look at the state of healthcare in the country and the Kenya-US deal that has been a subject of controversy in recent days. Thank you so much, PS, for actually making time for us this particular day. I want us to start with this one. We signed a deal. There's been reports that it has been taken to court and that we have conservatory orders. Where are we as far as that is concerned? Is that true?
So thank you so much. So first, it's been a subject of excitement.
Okay. Not debate.
Not concern. So
Okay.
excitement. Excitement in two ways. So this year there's been a lot of anxiety among persons living with HIV, our communities that we are supporting for TB, malaria. There have been a lot of job losses as a result of the stop work order. There's been a lot of concerns from a number of institutions that were directly supporting the healthcare system and were relying on the support of USAID, the USAID as we used to call it. And so there is a lot of excitement that we finally, through the leadership of the president, have engaged with the US government. We have deepened our relationship, we've deepened our collaboration, and we have gotten a deal. We've gotten a deal that is bigger, that is better, that is like no other deal anywhere on earth. So I think it is important that we look at it from that perspective. But of course, there has also been some concerns that have been raised, first by entities that were initially being financed, and that's the non-governmental organizations, which as already has been explained, now we are doing a government-to-government arrangement. There have also been some concerns around data issues, which I think we have clarified that none of those things exist. There were some specific NGOs from Washington, I think, that were financing some activists around here, because they have their local politics in the US. And so some of those NGOs from Washington, some of them that we know, were financing a few activists and people on Twitter, including one famous person who is the one who shared documents that were fake. And I think that caused a bit of concern. What we have done is in the best interest of the country. We've negotiated a cooperation based on 6 areas. One is on disease outbreaks, and this is something that we do. We have cholera outbreaks. Right now there's Marburg in Ethiopia. Like on Tuesday, the president was going to Turkana, and it was our responsibility to look at the border in Kibish. So we have stationed what we call a mobile laboratory there to see Marburg. Marburg is like hemorrhagic fever. You get it, you bleed, you die. So you can imagine all of those people that were going to the festival in Turkana. And Marburg is just on the opposite side of the border, on the South Omo. There is a lot of that region of Ethiopia is affected. So it is in our best interest as a country to keep our border safe. So disease outbreaks, you get. So those are the things we are doing with this money. Again, HIV, malaria, issues around commodities or medicines that we require. Again, digitization, which is something that ensures that our healthcare system is stronger. Strategic investments such as the Social Health Authority. So we have a number of cooperation areas here.
My question initially was in regards to what the conversation that has been happening in the country, whether it's actually suspended. Do we have conservatory orders stopping the implementation of this particular deal or not?
So there are 2 entities that went to court. One is COFEC, the Confederation of Consumers. They went to court on the data sharing agreement. And the court indeed made conservatory orders. The court said that we should not implement insofar as sharing of medical, epidemiological, personal data is concerned, which does not exist in the agreement.
Okay.
So as far as we are concerned, there is no conservation, because the court was very clear that it's a conservatory. So conservatory, in fact, the court said in the interim, which means that the court was not seized with the documents that we signed. We believe now they have been seized. So now that they made a decision when blind, in my opinion, although this is to the lawyers, and now the things the court said do not exist in the document. So, the court said, oh, by the way, don't share any personal health data. The document said, we will not share any personal health data. Okay. So essentially, the court was just satisfying the people who went to court, but at the same time, telling us, you proceed as long as you do not share any personal data, which was not there in the agreement. Okay. So as far as we are concerned, we have nothing that is stopping us.
All right.
And Senator Okiya Omtata also went to court, trying to stop the argument, the implementation. The court has not granted him any orders. The court did not issue any suspension. And I think the media has been running fake news, and I hope today K24 becomes the first media station to break the news to the country that there are no conservatory orders stopping the suspension of implementation of the cooperation framework.
Okay. So right now we do not have conservatory orders stopping the suspension of the implementation of this particular deal?
Of the framework, zero.
Okay.
On the data sharing agreement, there is a conservatory order stopping us from sharing personal data, which does not exist.
Okay.
So there is also nothing stopping the implementation of the data sharing agreement as long as we don't share personal data, which does not exist in the agreement. Okay. So I hope you break the correct news.
We get that.
Yeah.
We mentioned Busia Senator Okiya Omtata, and of course, he's at the center of this particular conversation that we're having right now. But for him, he wants the whole implementation to actually be stopped. He has raised concerns, says there's lack of public participation, Parliament was not involved. What do we say to this?
So Senator Okiya Omtata, I think, is there's something called phishing. You understand? P-H-I-S-H-I-N-G. He needs to read something called phishing. I think he's misusing the court process. Okay. So there are some executive functions. He needs to read the constitution, which he walks around with. So he needs to look at what the executive function is. He needs to look at what parliament function is. He also needs to look at what the judiciary function is. That's the basic. So as far as this agreement is concerned, this is not an international treaty. International treaties have to go through parliament when you call ratification. Okay? This is not a treaty. This is a development cooperation. Development cooperation we've been signing with the US government for years. Okay. In fact, we signed in 2021, we signed something called Development Cooperation DCFA, Development Cooperation Framework Agreement, which was signed even with the USID that was closed, it was signed. All these things do not require participation. It's like mobilizing money to do an executive function. So we have currently 1.35 million people that are taking antiretroviral treatment. It's the government's responsibility. Whether the US government was here or it was not here, it is our responsibility to give them those medicines. It is our responsibility to give vaccines, for example. Yeah. It is our responsibility to make sure hospitals have the services. It is our responsibility to make sure all Kenyans get into SHA. So if I go and do an agreement that enables me to do that, that is called executive function. It does not require legislation because the powers have already been given through laws for us to execute that function. So I think Senator Okiya Omtata, being a lawmaker, I think he needs to read the law just a little bit more and stop being on a fishing expedition.
So when he says the agreement was unconstitutional, that is neither here nor there?
But the court has not granted him orders.
Okay. Let's talk about the issue
I believe that is that's the answer.
Okay.
The court has always agreed with him in many areas. This one,
Okay, we are still waiting, so it has not yet been decided
No.
yet. Okay. So the issue of data.
You know, the court, if
Okay.
the court agrees with you, they give you orders immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, when you go to court and they tell you next year, oh, come March.
Okay. Let's take a look at, you've mentioned something before I come to the issue of data. Those are this conversation around some of the things that he was able to raise and say, we are getting into an agreement that might be very difficult for us, especially financially, moving forward. Because now, when you look at this particular agreement, you're looking at a possibility of us now starting to be very self-sufficient as a nation and be able to finance these particular programs. Does he have a good point when he raises that it might
But we are supposed to be self-sufficient. You know, essentially, we are not supposed to depend on the U.S. government, should we? So we are supposed to be self-sufficient. And the plan that is there currently on health is to get us to be sustainable, to be self-reliant, and to have a health system that is stable. Okay, so all the development organizations or called donors are pulling out. Danida is pulling out. I think this should be their last year. GIZ already pulled out long time ago. Those were the Germans. FCDO has deprioritized. In fact, FCDO is the Foreign Commonwealth Development Organization, what we used to call DFID, or in clear terms, the UK government. They have pulled out of health. Okay, the US government pulled out in January, what we call stop work order. But through our efforts, we have, because it was very abrupt and it left a lot of casualties, and that is why through the leadership of the president and us, the professionals, and my own work in terms of engaging with the US, we've sort of brought now this cooperation framework that looks at a more stable way of getting out. You get the point. So we say 5 years, by that 5 years we should be on our own. But by January, the US wanted us to be on our own. They already stopped. They already pulled out. You get the point. So I think he has zero basis, to even ask that question, because you can't tell somebody else not to tell you to be on your, you're supposed to be on your own anyway, with or without them. So if somebody is cooperating with you to help you to be on your own, that's a good friend.
Okay.
That's a good friend. And the US government is a good friend. Right. And they have been a bilateral partner for Kenya. In the health sector, they give us the most money. Out of 82 billion that we get out of development organizations, that is across all the money that goes into NGOs and all of that, the US government was responsible for 35 billion. Okay. That's huge. That's almost half. Okay? It's just that money used to go to NGOs. Now it is going to come through government from April next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up on that one. Now that we are no longer dealing with the NGOs and we are dealing with the government directly, what difference are we likely to see as far as healthcare is concerned?
You're likely to see more value for the money, because then you know what used to happen with the NGOs is that the US government would give an NGO in Washington first. That NGO would take what we call 20% overheads or administrative costs. Then that NGO would give another NGO in Kenya. That NGO in Kenya would also take another 20% in terms of overhead costs. So now that's 40% gone. So 60% of the money remaining then would now go into what we call programming. So they would first of all make sure that before they get to Garissa, they have bought 10 Land Cruisers to get to Garissa. But remember, there's a government in Garissa already. So when they are buying 10 Land Cruisers, those 10 Land Cruisers will be stationed in Nairobi and they have to be fueled to Garissa. I hope you understand. And then to be fueled to Garissa, they have to be maintained. And you have to have drivers. And you must have another person who knows Garissa, who then now takes them around. Okay? That person would be called the technical assistant. So another 20% of the money would be gone. Okay? Now, the money that then gets to the people in terms of the hospital would be only around 40%. Now, when you give the government money directly, there's already a government in Garissa, there's already a PS, there's already a CEC, the government has already systems. So you don't need to hire. The government already has cars, the government has already all these things. So it just plugs into what the government is doing to try solve the problem, okay, rather than trying to cut a lot of things that then creates like another government parallel to our government. I hope you understand. So we are going to focus on the things that Kenyans need. So if there is a Kenyan out there and they are not able to pay for their SHA, we are going to focus on how do we mobilize the Kenyans who are not going to be able to pay their SHA and look at what services do we pay for them. If there's a Kenyan outside there who is in a community and they are not getting their ARVs, we already have 107,000 community health promoters. Because the other side, you will find the government has the CHPs, but then an NGO has to go to the community again to bring people that they are calling counselors or something. That is parallel to what the government has. So you will find in one village there is the CHP of the government, but the US government through the NGO was paying another person who we don't even know what they were doing. But now ours are digitized. So in a community, if there's a child with epilepsy, we already have a CHP. So we are going to make sure that the money gets to that CHP to get to that child with epilepsy, so that that child gets to the hospital. And then the medicine is in the hospital through KEMSA. That's what we are using. So we are strengthening our systems so that we are sustainable. Because you cannot be sustainable if you start parallel things. You get. So we have to strengthen KEMSA to make sure they get medicines. We have to strengthen our National Public Health Institute to make sure that they get to survey the disease, what we call disease surveillance. We have to strengthen our social health authority to map out those people who can't pay, to map out those who can pay and are refusing to pay. By the way, we are also coming for you. So it's not that the money is just to help those who are not able to pay. Even you who has a business, you have a hardware, unauza mandazi, unauza samaki, and you are refusing to join the social health authority. Alafu ukishakuwa mgonjwa unaenda hospitali, unaanza kusema SHA haifanyi kazi na wewe ndiye hujaregister. We are also coming for you. So we are going to have something called social health insurance revenue measures. Those revenue measures ni mimi na wewe ambao tuko na shop, uko na duka huko Marsabit, unauza kila siku unapata 2,000, lakini umekataa kulipia your social health authority. You are making your village as poor because when you get an accident, they have to changa arambe. That arambe they should have changad so that they help you grow your business. We want the economy to grow. So not to changa so that they can help you go and fix your leg that you have broken when you are going to get goods to sell in your shop, which you make 2,000 shillings every day, which you would have just paid 100 bob every day or even 50 bob every day, so that your shop does not collapse, you don't leave your children as orphans. You get. So we are also coming for those ones, using this money, by the way, so that we are all sustainable.
If you say we are coming for you, in how exactly?
We are going to do what is called social health insurance revenue measures. So when we do revenue measures, the challenge has been in the informal sector. The informal sector, you and I who are employed, it's easy because your employer is an agent. We know your employer. Your employer has registered your place as a workplace. We know your ID, we know your PIN because you have to be paid a salary. So we deduct 2.75%. Ndio. Lakini kuna mtu anauza mandazi huko, anatengeneza pesa. But because they are their own employer, yeah, when they go to the hospital wanakwama. They have small businesses, okay? So basically when we say we are coming for you, is that we want to make sure that our platform is so stable to capture everyone. Because Kenya, 20% of adult population is employed. So those ones are easy. 40%, tuko na kabiashara hapa. Mtu anauza ngwashe huko, anakuwa na farming huko Molo. Another one is running a hardware here in Jiru. But wote hawako kwa SHA. When they get sick, it is the economy that goes down. Because unapata, the guy used to run his hardware. He is now coming to Akwet Steel, maybe in Mukuru, where we are going today, to go get his chuma. Sindio? In the process of going to get his chuma, kitu imefanyika. Gari imegonga ye, amevunja mguu. Akienda pale Mbagathi, now that to fix that mguu is 200,000. Now his hardware, he has been running for 50,000, now is closed because he can no longer run the hardware. Tunaelewana? Now he again cannot afford to fix his own leg. So he is now disturbing people in the mtaa with Arambe. So people in the Arambe start saying, oh, serikali haifanyi kazi. No, those are the things we want to stop. So that we all pay. So that guy who is having 50,000 in his hardware should pay. He should pay hata kama ni 1,000 kila mwezi.
Okay.
Unaelewa? At the end of the day we all have our money. Iko kwa SHA, kila mtu akienda hospitali anapata huduma. You don't disturb people in your village again with Arambe. People get poor or you even die. Right. You leave your children as orphans. We then have to put 700 billion to pay for bursary.
Okay.
You know, we have to grow our country.
Right.
And if we don't understand this, by the way, if we don't understand this, then you will have people like Okiya Omtata always going to court because you don't understand where we are going to.
Okay. So the problem that we're facing right now as a nation is understanding the kind of direction that we're supposed to be taking.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask the data aspect of it. A lot of people have been having questions in regards to that. What are they not getting right?
I think let me start by what they are getting right. What they are getting right is the fact that for sure there are laws in Kenya that allows people to question what their data is being used for. Previously, you would go to a restaurant, they would take your picture, they would use it, and you would not do anything. Right now, it's not possible. Why? Because we have the Data Protection Act 2019. But remember, it's just 2019. By 2017, you could go to a club, you are just there enjoying yourself, watu wamechukua picha yako, hata you didn't want your parents to know that you were just somewhere enjoying yourself, you even lied that you had money, but your sister has seen you on Facebook because Quiver Lounge or something has posted your picture. Okay. So now people are aware that there is Data Protection Act. So that's what they are getting right. And that is a good thing. I wish that we also get to the level of the same awareness as far as SHA is concerned. Okay? Now that's a story for another day. Now what they are not getting right is the fact that their concerns were taken care of. Because the law that we have, so we have the Data Protection Act, we have the Digital Health Act of 2023 that talks about confidentiality. By the way, imagine your information yote ulikuwa naendanga hospitali. It's just us doctors who used to take an oath. You know, us doctors, we take an oath for confidentiality. But not everyone in a hospital. The watchman in a hospital has not taken an oath. The admin in a hospital has not taken an oath. Now you can imagine that file. The doctor has taken an oath, but everyone else handling the file had not taken an oath. Now we even have a Digital Health Act 2023 that says now all health information is confidential. So anyone, whether you are the med sup of a hospital, the in charge, the CEO, the watchman in a facility, huwezi tumia tu information ya kila mtu. Inasema your information belongs to the patient or belongs to the government, and it can only be accessed, number one, when there's a court order to access it, number two, when it is being used for research, number three, when it's being used for academic purposes. Lakini huwezi tumia data ya mtu. So now that's what they are not getting right, that we have used the law to protect the data sharing. And we have anchored the data sharing agreement on the Kenyan law. We have even put in the last clause, it's called the governing law. Kwa hiyo document, ukisoma na hiyo document iko public. If you read it, it says the governing law. Should there be any conflict between the Kenyan law and the US government law, we say the Kenyan law shall prevail. Yani, tumesema, law yetu ni superior. We have the Data Protection Act that protects your data, and we have the Digital Health Act that says data is confidential. Okay. That is why I was saying what the court told us does not exist.
All right. One thing that also has come out as far as this conversation is concerned in issues to do with data is the question of what exactly is the United States getting in return? Because when we paint it out, it's like Kenya is winning in this particular agreement. What are they getting in return out of this?
So when you do diplomacy, it's never about a win-lose. There can be win-win. And this is part of those that have been a win-win. I can't speak for the US government, but I can speak for the Kenyan government. But I know that the US government is also gaining a lot. It's gaining a lot. That a lot that they are gaining is not related perhaps to your data. It's related to the international international peace. For example, you saw we signed our thing when our president, who is also the chair of EAC, was leading other presidents to sign the Congo deal. So there's a lot of what we call international positioning. So there may be a lot of things that they are gaining. Of course, the US government is a key partner to Kenya. So they're also looking at not losing their friends. That's something else that they're gaining. Because Kenya and the US has cooperated for so long. Now Kenya, we are gaining more resources to make sure that our UHC agenda, that I think the president thinks every single day, even today morning, he was meeting minorities and he has said 200,000 of those people who are poor, serikali itawalipia. Sasa, this is how we get some of these resources to do some of those things. Now, Kenya is gaining a lot in terms of anchoring its agenda to achieve it faster and to make the country stable.
Okay. Another thing that I want to ask has to do with correct me if I'm wrong, but this data sharing is supposed to happen for 7 years, I believe.
Yes.
We have a deal that was signed for 5 years.
5 years, yes.
Why?
Because our law, sisi ukiangalia constitution, I think it must be, is it article 229? I'm not so sure, I think I'll get it. But the part of the constitution that looks at the auditor general, our auditing process in Kenya is 2 years outward. Like right now when I sit here, I am answering to Parliament issues of 2023, 2024. Okay? Now, as we move into the other year, we'll start 2024, 2025. So there's always 2 years lag phase. So the one year is the auditor is doing its work. So if I do something today, next year it will be audited. What I'm doing this year will be audited next year. Now, once the auditor has finished, you will take it to Parliament. Then now Parliament will summon the other year. I hope you understand. So we are always 2 years out. So we have based the 7 years on our own law in Kenya, not the law of the US. Because then it is to our disadvantage if I say 5 years, and that 5 years I'm not able to have given you an audited account. Wewe umeshanipatia pesa. My own law says that I have to do the work, I have to spend the money, and then I have to audit it the other year, and then I have to take it to Parliament. So if I were to give you a report, which report am I giving you after the 5 years has ended? Wa Kenya jamani.
My final question will be this one. There's a parliamentarian that raised concerns in regards to issues to do with graft, placing the government at the center of this and saying, we understand how the government operates. We've seen issues to do with corruption, and we're just wondering whether the United States understands what it is dealing with or the kind of people that it is dealing with. When people have those kind of questions in regards to graft, how do you assure both the people that are investing in the country and just the citizens at large that this money is going to be invested for their sake?
You know, graft is such a personal thing. It's not, we always say, oh, graft, oh, it's systemic, oh, blah, 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 but it's personal. You know, if Oluga is corrupt, Oluga is just corrupt. Yeah. So the thing I can say is for me, since I came here in this ministry 7 months ago, umesikia graft. And sisi ndio tumepewa pesa. So I can just thank the professionals that are here and the people that we work with. And if we are keen to make sure that we use the resources efficiently, effectively, accountably, the way the president says, I don't think that issue of graft comes. Okay. And I think that right now the government has processes to detect if something is not going right, even if the money is being misused. But now, inside that cooperation framework, we have also put safeguards. We've put safeguards on the performance. What are you supposed to do? On the process, how are you supposed to do it? And on the accountability, how much of the resources are you supposed to put it there? And those safeguards, there is an audit process that comes within that cooperation framework. And so this is so tight, and it is even tied to the amount of money ourselves we are getting, and even the amount of money Kenya is putting in. So if, for example, we spend, and we didn't spend it right, then it will reduce the amount of money, it will even stop. And I don't think there's any Kenyan who wants to put the country at risk. Okay. I don't think that, at least not me. Right. And so as long as I am here, I can guarantee everyone that nyeupe kama pamba.
Nyeupe kama pamba. 2026 is coming in just a few days. What are you looking forward to as far as this docket is concerned? What should people be looking at in 2026, say we are holding PS Oluga accountable in 2026 on this, because this is what he was looking forward to.
So thank you first, Kenyans, because we've received extraordinary amount of support. Just 7 months ago, April, when I came here, found vaccines were not there. Now you're no longer talking about vaccines. Okay. The first day of this office, we were talking about vaccines, oh, blah, blah. 80,000 children have missed. But I think it's the country. I think it's important also to acknowledge where we're coming from. So we've sorted out those issues, and Kenyans have supported us. The vaccine issue, health workers, gone, now quiet, okay? The issues around SHA, we came here when it was barely 12 million, now 28 million. So there's been support, and we do not take it for granted when there is support. And we think that Kenyans have walked the journey with us in transforming the health system as espoused in His Excellency President Ruto's agenda. Because my work is to implement. His work is to give direction. Okay. My work is to do that, to make sure that every single Kenyan gets to feel what government is investing, gets to enjoy those services. And so my promise to Kenyans is that by June 2026, which is our target for having achieved 85% of UHC, 85%, and it is in the law, by the way, 85%. June 2026, 85% UHC, hold us accountable to it. And what we mean by UHC, for me, are two things. Number one is the fact that you, Kenyan, feel like you're being treated right in the hospitals.
All right.
And number two is that you're not going bankrupt or you're not dying because you don't have a mechanism to pay for it.
All right. Thank you so much, Bona PS. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And allowing us to have a conversation with you as far as this particular deal is concerned and the state of healthcare in the country, right? Success.
Please correct the fake news that
we are going to do that. It's our job. Thank you so much for granting us this interview.
Thank you.
All right, that does it for us. My name is Brian Amwai, and of course, this is K24 Exclusives.